Hello, ladies and gentlemen. So here we are setting out again, Oz in his Python, and me in my brand new Anaconda. But I'm getting ahead of myself. After Oz bought his Python, we continued our adventures. I got a Ferdinand, and now that we had ships which we thought were gonna stick with us for a while, we decided to go get some engineer upgrades, and that proved to be fatal. So as you can guess, we were flying in open. We flew into the engineer system and we've met there a murdering psychopath who had nothing better to do but murder players for fun. There's been a lot of discussion about PvP in the recent months, so I'm not gonna go into that. But I'm gonna say that even though we are dealing with NPCs on a regular basis, going against other human is still different. And personally, I do not mind the challenge. It's the combat against other humans is far more challenging. I do make mistakes which I do not do when I'm flying against NPCs. On the other hand, it has to be something I do willingly. If I'm drawn into this with against my will, I just don't want to deal with that bullshit. And I say bullshit because in all the PvP encounters that I've had, the other guy was way above and beyond my class. So it was just laughable. There wasn't anything in there that was potentially interesting. Now, the most unfortunate thing about the whole episode was that Oz didn't have enough money for rebuy, so he understandably rage quit. And as I said, this wasn't my first encounter, and I've just had enough as well. Well, fortunately, Elite allows you to do more than just one thing in the game. So after we have recovered, we've decided to do the one other thing we always wanted to do. Gave a finger to the humanity and went out to the void to explore. Since the Asp Explorer isn't a costly ship and this wasn't our first rodeo, Oz managed to recover pretty quickly. I have sold my Ferdinand, so I actually got two ships out of this. I got the Asp as well, the Explorer, and a fully decked out Vulture. We've set course for the Elephant's Trunk Nebula, which you can see here in the background, and both the journey and the beautiful nebula itself proved to be the very welcome mind clearing that we've both hoped for after the last events in the bubble. Once you stop seeing that many ships on your sensors and stop getting that many signal sources, the game, the experience becomes something entirely different. Your mind focuses on the journey and you focus on the void. Most of the time, you're just alone out there. Even though we were flying together, we had a little bit different configurations of our ships. So, due to slight difference in the jump range, we weren't always flying together. We would usually set out from a system, then meet in a couple of systems along the route, but then usually just saw each other at the destination system because you can plot your journey only up to 1,000 light years ahead. So we would always plot as far as we could go and then fly that journey. Therefore, we were mostly flying alone. Of course, we communicated with each other, but when we finally got to the destination system and we actually saw each other and landed next to each other on a common rocky body and drove in our SRVs, that was the best thing ever. Without the usual commotion of the bubble, even these mundane tasks of arriving into a system and super cruising through it or driving around in an SRV feel very different. All of a sudden, all the details which you may not have previously noticed come up, and you have to pay a lot more attention, or you do pay a lot more attention, willingly or unwillingly, because it is just you. You really are out there on the frontier making new discoveries. And we did make new discoveries along the way, single planets as well as entire systems. This was a new experience for us, and of course a pleasant one. To have your name written among the stars is the cherry on top of a very delicious cake. Altogether, we traveled around 7,000 light years, and besides Elephant's Trunk, we visited also another nebula, which we were drawn to by the constellation of very bright stars that are inside the nebula. At first, when we were just getting out, they seemed like a glitch, really, on the screen. But as we got further out into the void, the glitch, that the white blob on the screen separated into individual stars. And as we went further, it became apparent that it's a constellation of stars, and we just really got that explorer vibe where we thought that we would just like to set course, just steer the nose of the ship towards them and engage the frameshift drive. Ultimately, we figured out what these were and where they were. So we got there. It's a region of very bright stars inside a nebula, and also a region of miniature, but still, black holes. Very cool. Once we were back, we decided to unlock Felicity Farseer and proceed with FSD upgrades, because we are definitely going back out there. But before we do, we have also decided to earn some money and, well, buy new ships altogether for that matter. And for that purpose, we have decided to try engaging in a civil war. We went into a random system that was in the state of a civil war and used the quote unquote exploit, or just the game mechanics, depend on how you look at it, of stacking the missions. Long story short, that proved to be way more effective than anticipated. And in combination with buying ships and modules in Leon GUI controlled systems, the acquisition time was considerably reduced. I originally went for the Python as well, because I always liked the design, and it's one of those multi-purpose ships that you can just use for anything. And even though I was able to acquire an A-rated Python, I just wasn't satisfied with it. Thus, ultimately, I went for the Anaconda. I mean, I always wanted to get one, but I was also always afraid that it's way too big, way too clumsy. But boy, was I wrong. Since I sat in that cockpit, that magnificent, huge cockpit, I don't want to leave it ever again. I have kept my voucher. I love dogfighting way too much to get rid of it, but the Anaconda has become my home among the stars. So much so that I have purchased a second set of modules for exploration. The Conda is simply fucking amazing. Good night.